We are sort of at the last few weeks of finishing off that trade-off study, and I can just say it looks very promising to take on that technology in our updated DFS. We expect significant cost reductions on both CapEx and OpEx for the project, and it gives us the potential to make the project scalable.
Hello and welcome to the Assay TV, where today I'm delighted to be joined by Richard Parkhouse, the director, and Pine van Wyk, who is the country director of Forsys Metals. Forsys Metals and its subsidiary of companies are engaged in the acquisition and development of mineral properties. The company's principal focus is bringing its wholly owned Norasa Uranium project into production. Okay, so welcome Richard, welcome Pine. Thank you so much for joining us here today on the Assay TV.
Hi, Katie.
Good morning, Katie.
Morning. Okay, so just to kick things off, for those viewers that aren't so familiar with Forsys, can you just give us a bit of a company overview?
Absolutely. Forsys is an explorer developer which is engaged in acquiring and developing mineral properties, principally focused on advancing the Norasa Uranium project, which is its flagship. The company was actually listed on the TSX back in 2007, and we're pretty well capitalized, and we got a strong, experienced mining board and a management team. We 100% owned uranium deposits are actually down in Namibia, which we acquired back in 2007 to 2010. Now, for those of you who don't know Namibia, it's politically stable and mining friendly, and it's the third largest producer of uranium in 2022. We've got 195 million shares outstanding. We've got a current market cap of CAD 133 million. Now, since the disaster, which we all remember, of Fukushima, like other explorers, Forsys was forced into an extended period of care and maintenance, though during this managed to do more drilling and actually publish its definitive feasibility study in 2015. But since uranium prices started moving, the company has really started actioning and significant activity since 2021. We reorganized the board, we refinanced, we sold off our gold reserves. We appointed a fantastic team under Pine, who you'll hear from later on, to reevaluate the 2015 DFS. And as part of this, strengthened all of our relationships with the ministries in Namibia. So a quick overview of our flagship Norasa project. It comprises two deposits, Valencia and Namibia, which are roughly 4.5 km away from each other. We have a full mining license and fully permitted for Valencia, and just awaiting our renewal EPL for Namibia, where we're going to do some more optimization studies and then complete our mining license. It's potentially the largest permitted uranium project in the world, with measured and indicated resources of 115 million pounds and proven and probable annual production of 5.2 million pounds and reserves of 91 million pounds, which is significant. By production, that would rank us 9th largest in the world, which is huge. Now, the DFS, I'll only spend 2 seconds on. It's old, but we have compelling financials coming out of it. A net revenue of $5.1 billion, a pre-tax NPV of $622 million, an IRR of 32%. So again, even though they're old results and they're all being reevaluated by Pine's team, they were significant in the time. Hopefully that gives you a very quick overview flavour for Forsys and what we're up to.
Excellent. And before we start dissecting all of the information you've provided there, let's look at the team. Obviously, we have Pine here. What expertise is the board bringing to the team? Can you let us know a bit about that, please?
Yeah, look, perhaps, Katie, I can kick this off and then hand it over to Pine. I'll talk about the board, which has over 250 years of combined mineral mining and capital markets experience. And the core of this board has actually been together since 2008. The key mining expertise is actually with Martin Rowley and Paul Matusek, both of whom are significant veterans and very well known in the mining sectors, each having over 40 years leading multiple mining projects huge explorations, developments, disposals, and so forth. Our CEO has been a mining transaction lawyer for the last 35 years. So, absolutely involved in the mining industry. I myself came from the capital markets and was part and senior roles in various investment banks. And another addition to our board was Jeremy Hangula, who was appointed back in 2021 at the same time as myself. And he has very, very strong relationships with the Namibian authorities, regulatory concern and ministries. Now, then we had this fantastic A team, as I call it, on the ground in Namibia, which Pine put together. So I'll pass over to him to actually explain the expertise in that team.
Yeah. So, Katie, I think we are very fortunate for this project to, over a period of about 6 months, since late 2021, put together a experienced Namibian-based uranium team. Obviously, because Namibia has got a large uranium mining jurisdiction. There's been the benefit of pulling out of that industry. So we've got a local mining engineer that has extensive experience in uranium. We've got 3 very senior geologists that's involved, that has spent many of their years in uranium. Myself, I'm a process engineer by trade. I've worked at both Rossing Uranium in very senior roles for about 8 years. I built the Lange Heinrich uranium mine for Paladin, back in 2005. Spent 4 years with them. So the team that we've got here locally is boots on the ground that can optimize and bring all the learnings from previous experiences. We support that team, obviously the core team, with international accredited engineering companies like the DRAs of this world that assist us in the mine designs. We make use of SGS laboratories that's doing our metallurgical test work. We've got MSA on board, that is our qualified person, with regards to our resources. They're also managing our environmental study. So we really have a well-experienced combination of locals and internationals that can take this project, forward into execution.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. Let's look on to your Norasa Uranium project in a bit more depth now. As you mentioned, Richard, you completed a DFS in 2015, which, as we know, was a little while ago now. And it did establish the project as the 9th largest in the world. Since some time has now passed, what is the plan there? When are we planning to update this? And how do you think this will affect the numbers?
Yeah, it's been a really tricky time for all explorers since Fukushima. And, we, I think, did well during this care and maintenance period to actually get a DFS published after more drilling. However, even though those results were really compelling, and, as you say, positioned Norasa as one of the largest permitted projects in the world, 9th largest in the world, in fact, which is phenomenal. The fact is, when the prices started to rise again in uranium and the world reawoke, and of course we had COVID at the same time, but when the world reawoke to the fact that actually uranium is such an important part of the renewable package to meet the CO2 emissions targets, we got our acts together. And, as I said before, we quickly re-established what we were going to do. And this did involve really dusting down all aspects and re-evaluating the DFS. Now, in terms of the detail of that, I want to hand over to Pine, who's running the project on this.
Okay.
So I think over the last few months, we really unpacked the old study. Technology has moved on over the last 8-9 years, and we've identified potential technology improvements in the form of potentially switching from tank leach to heap leach technology. That would involve HPGR crushing technology that doesn't generate so much fines, to assist the construction and operation of heap leach operations. We are sort of at the the last few weeks of finishing off that trade-off study, and I can just say it looks very promising to take on that technology in our updated DFS. We expect significant cost reductions on both CapEx and OpEx for the project, and it gives us the potential to make the project scalable, much more flexible in the sense of, we can add capacity, we can start smaller and ramp it up rapidly. So we're very excited about that. So we're at the point where once we finish that trade-off study, we will then freeze the scope and then go ahead and then update the DFS study that we hopefully will be able to produce by Q2 next year.
Excellent. I guess the natural next question, particularly for you, Pine, what drilling is the company actually conducting at the moment?
So we've drilled most of our resources, to the full extent. There is some upside potential in certain areas that we've identified where we are going to do some infill drilling. Hopefully that will lead to, increase in our resources after we've done that. But our main focus really on the drilling side has been to do the geotechnical drilling to optimize our pit designs and slope stability assessments, as well as, drilling fresh samples for our metallurgical test work that's currently ongoing and will be needed, for the upcoming DFS. So that's sort of been the focus. We're halfway through that program. And we still need to do the number plus side of it. The Valencia side is basically nearly done.
Okay, excellent. And the company is expecting the commencement of a pilot plant in the coming months. Can you share some of the details about that and what it means for the company?
Yeah, so Katie, I think it is an obvious logical step if you move to a heap leach project. There's a couple of sort of key engineering parameters that engineers would want to, just test out before they do the detailed designs for building the main massive project. So we will be constructing smaller scale heaps. We'll be simulating sort of what we will be doing at a bigger scale, and then through that firm up some design parameters to make sure that by the time that we build the main plant, that we don't learn lessons then, that we firm up the design parameters. So we're going to parallel process that with our DFS study because a lot of that information will feed into the DFS. And it's a very significant and important step for us, to firm up our DFS.
Excellent. And any idea how close the project is to production? Any ideas on that?
Look, to build a project of this scale and will take roughly 24 months of construction. Yeah. So if we finish the DFS and we can finish the fundraising, let's say in the next half year to 9 months, we add 24 months and we'll produce our first yellow cake.
Excellent. And let's circle back a bit because you mentioned as part of your team, you've got connections to the government of Namibia. How do you actually find working in such a jurisdiction? Yeah,
myself, I've been born and raised in Namibia. I've operated for 25 years in this mining industry. I've worked for a number of different companies, including the blue chips of Rio Tinto, Anglo America, and the likes. So this country is very pro to mining. It is a country that has got a very good infrastructure, and it has the security of tenure for us. That's very important. And we do have rule of law that is fully enforceable. So it creates a very safe environment for mining companies on the African continent. And I would say Namibia is probably on the African continent a destination of choice, for all the big scale mining operations and the newcomers and junior explorers. So a very good jurisdiction to work.
Excellent. And let's just look at the broader picture a little bit here. Uranium's obviously been going through somewhat of a renaissance in the last few years. Do you think the bull market for uranium will continue to heat up? And can you take that one, Richard?
Yeah, good question. Very topical. The simple answer to that is yes. I mean, there's been so much commentary recently that we're in the new uranium bull market, and particularly driven by a much stronger recognition of nuclear contribution to climate change. I mean, markets have experienced a structural change where there's a growing uranium supply deficit and widening of the supply-demand curve as secondary supply declines. Excess inventory has been drawn down, and actually some mines are entering end of life. And it's never been so important for new primary production to help fill this sort of widening gap in the supply-demand curve. So it's fascinating to see how countries around the world who have been adamantly against nuclear are now, after Fukushima, are now coming back into the market in droves and reopening their reactors, if not planning new builds. I mean, just some simple facts around that is interesting. At the end of June, I guess, 2023, there were 437 operable reactors and 63 new ones under construction. A further 110 are planned, and a further 321 are being proposed. I mean, which is enormous. Notable countries involved in this are China, obviously, with 24 reactors operating and a further 44 planned. And India, likewise, with similar sort of numbers of 8 reactors and 12 planned. Safety's improved, and we got new SMRs, which are the small modular reactors coming through on the market. But most importantly, and I think this comes back to some explorers like us, that since the prices have started moving again, there's been a significant increase in exploration budgets being spent on the ground in order to get new primary production projects up and running. Similar, i.e. Norasa, for instance. So yes, absolutely. The markets, as far as we're concerned, is heating up, and I think it'll get a lot hotter.
Absolutely, I do agree there. Okay, so just to round things up, between you both, what are the most significant milestones our investors should keep an eye out for in the coming months?
I think the most significant news that we're going to see over the next couple of weeks and months is obviously our news release on our trade-off study, on implementing all of these new technology changes in our processing. I think that will be quite exciting news. And then shortly after that, it will follow with the updated DFS results and updating of our mineral resources after our drilling programs. So those are all sort of continuous news flow that will build up to our release of our updated DFS shortly thereafter. The one thing that we're also looking forward to is our mining license approval for the Namibia Plus. We very positive that that is seriously being considered by government, and I think that would probably follow soon after we release our DFS results, and then our project will be fully licensed to move ahead.
Can I just add to that? Because I think all of these things are seriously exciting things for investors and significant catalysts, we believe, in dialing up the interest in our company, and obviously improving our enterprise value. But, I mean, two of the things that stand out to me are the impact on CapEx and OpEx because of heat leaching, which Pine has explained to you. Secondly, the potential that coming out of the drilling exercise of size of resource. Now, obviously, that hasn't been confirmed, but we're kind of optimistic that there's some interesting things coming out there. And one of the other standout things for me is that we are very seriously talking about a pilot leaching plant at Valencia for Q1 2024, which to me is a major milestone. And what it does, it actually puts us right on the cusp of moving from explorer to producer and, getting things going. So, with all of these things happening, I think there's a serious pipeline of stuff going on, coming out of Namibia, coming out of this fantastic team that we've got down there, which I think is going to be hugely exciting for investors.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with the Assay today. It certainly sounds like an exciting few months coming up for Forsys, and we can't wait to catch up again soon.
Great. Thank you very much, Katie.